Cool. Sick. All right. All right. Uh, Man, this thing is 3 hours long. I don't know if I'm gonna get through the whole thing today, but I've been meaning to watch this. Been meaning to react to this. Came out a couple days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. A lot of people are saying it's really really good. Maybe one of the best interviews Nick has ever done. Top five. Some people are saying. So that's some pretty high praise. So I guess we'll just hop straight into it. Look, Myron's. Let's just start from. Oh, is that the whole sponsor? Okay, let's skip the sponsor.
Wow, where do I begin, man? It's funny because I've seen other interviews with you, and it's always just like the notorious, the most controversial. But yeah, Nick Fuentes, man. I've seen a lot of your stuff. I heard about you through, obviously the internet. People, oh, watch this guy's stuff. Seen some stuff. Some stuff I'm like going kind of far, understandable in some cases. Some cases I'm like doesn't need to be said.
Yeah, it looks
but
like everything's
regardless, you definitely seem to have a really strong.
Turn off the
voice
replay
in
buffer to
this
save
entire,
resources.
like political space commentating. I believe you have a very successful show.
Thank you.
What is it like being almost seems like enemy number one to the government?
It's tough. It's weird because I feel like I do a talk show.
Yeah.
So in a way, I don't do exactly the same thing as you, but ultimately I do videos. I live stream myself giving speeches about politics, and I've been on the no-fly list. I've had my bank accounts frozen. I've had people try to kill me at my house. And so I've sort of accepted it. It's normal for me. I've been doing it for 10 years, but sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I feel like a terrorist, but I do a talk show, or at least that's how I'm treated. So,
and that's so true. Nick has never committed a crime. He's never, he's a devout Catholic. He goes to mass every Sunday, regularly, as a Catholic would do, go to confession, or as any good Catholic should do, should regularly go to confession. And yet people treat him like he's a terrorist. People treat him like he's some kind of hardened criminal, or that he's really like this hateful, evil person. And compare that to like some of the people that get the most mainstream attention. Take Netanyahu, for example, who, gets met with the red carpet in the White House, yet he's committing a genocide in Gaza. And so people will entertain him. People will take him seriously. Obviously, a lot of people don't. But Netanyahu's not deplatformed anywhere. And a lot of the mainstream, what's more, I guess, egregious, or to make a better comparison, all of these mainstream pundits that run excuses, they make excuses for Israel. They're not deplatformed. They're defending an ongoing genocide. Just one of the sort of more obviously egregious things that Israel is doing. So you've got, on one hand, people that are apologetics for an ongoing genocide, and on the other hand, you've got this Catholic that's, calling out the actions of this fifth column. And it's like, which one's worse? Who deserves cancellation more? So it's like these people that spew all this vitriol towards Nick, it's like they're really in no position. So many of them, the vast majority of them, are in no position to moralize when they defend a lot of the stuff that's going on.
But it's like anything. You get acclimated to it. You get used to it.
Where did it start for you? Because I from what I understand, early on in your career, you started questioning. I think were you working with the Daily Wire?
No, I almost was.
You almost were.
They almost brought me
and
on.
You started asking questions about the Israel lobby,
right?
And that was like, what? How many years ago?
That was in 2017. So that was 8 years ago.
And after that, it was just like it was downhill from there, as far as like you being able to do all this stuff without backlash.
Yes. Yeah, there were kind of two things that were happening at that time. You know, I was in college, I was at Boston University.
Oops.
And the thing that people don't realize is that's where they groom all the conservative influencers. So, Turning Point, all the different campus groups, they're looking for like the young, best and brightest conservative people. And when they get into those groups, they then start their career towards being a Fox News host or being a Daily Wire host or something like that. And I was very much in that pipeline. I was very much on that trajectory to being like a conservative pundit, at least at the very early stages. And they basically realized early on in the beginning of 2017 that I was not going with the program on that one issue on Israel. It wasn't even anything else, but I just insisted that it was not consistent with what everyone else was saying. You know, Trump in the inaugural said it's America first. And I said, well, there's one country that seems to be the exception there. And I would never let that go. And so one track is that I was being actively canceled and blacklisted by the conservatives. And so that actually happened first because I wasn't really known. I was just an 18-year-old kid. I had 1,000 followers on Twitter. I was getting 100 live viewers on my show. I really had no big following, but people were moving behind the scenes. It was like a whisper campaign saying, don't hire this guy. Don't bring him on your podcast. This guy's bad.
And how did you
news."
know that?
I was being told that by people who were sympathetic.
And I'm sorry to interrupt a little bit, but do you also believe that even if it was the Democratic side, would you have still got the same pushback?
I'm sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Because, you know, in both sides, you do have this kind of censorship. You do have control that emanates from the center.
Yeah.
So I think even more so on the left. People are surprised that it happens on the right because we say that the right is the free marketplace of ideas.
Yeah.
And you can express yourself and be politically incorrect, but that's only up to a certain point, up to a limit. So I was getting canceled. The first big thing is I had guys from Campus Reform, which is like a student-run group. They would report on the left-wing outrage on the campus. Those guys were coming after me. The Daily Wire crowd was coming after me, bad-mouthing me on Twitter, behind the scenes. I got banned from CPAC, which is the big conservative convention.
Okay.
Right.
I think that's good.
And so one track is that in the industry, I was just blacklisted from the start, throttling my career from the rip. But then the second track, the kind of second thing that's happening is that then you have the social media censorship, which is ramping up.
Yeah.
So after Trump wins the election, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, they all gradually, incrementally start cracking down. And between those two things, it was like a pincer. I could get no opportunities, no platforms, no jobs, no interviews, no institutional support from the conservatives. At the same time, I couldn't make my own career because I got banned on PayPal, YouTube, ultimately then Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and they just kind of cascaded one after the other. And
what was that like? They're sending you emails, or like you're just trying to post and it's like your account's gone? Like, what does that look like?
It was dreadful because you would wake up literally one day, you try to go on your app, like as you know you do, you go on Twitter, whatever, and then you're done, you're gone. You would wake up, you try to open up your account, and you would be signed off automatically. You try to sign back in, oh, there's an error, you check your email, and they'd send you an email. Your account has been permanently suspended, and most of the time they don't even give you a reason.
Yeah.
They just say violations of our TOS. And you appeal and you ask them, you know, what did I violate? What's a specific thing? But it's so opaque, they don't tell you anything. And so you're just waiting for that other shoe to drop every day. And it's not even just the social platforms, but banks, airlines, Airbnb, even obscure things.
What is banks like? They're just like, hey, you got to get your money out of the account. Your account's closed.
Yep. You get a letter in the mail and they'd say, we've made the decision to close your checking account. They say because of reputational risk. That's the excuse they use. And they'll call you on the phone and say you have 90 days to move all your money out of the account.
Wow. Okay, so before all this stuff happened, before you even really got into politics, like how did you find your way there? Why did you find your way there?
Well, I was precocious. You know, when I was like 12 years old, I was really into politics, but I was reading what was available in the mainstream. You know, back when I was 12 or 13, this had to be back in 2012, right around there. There wasn't a lot of online content on social media from conservatives. They were a little late to the party. And so what you had was Breitbart, Prager University.
Right.
They didn't call it Daily Wire. Back then they called it PJ Media. That was Ben Shapiro's outfit. And so I just downloaded all that stuff. And I was a big like libertarian, neocon action.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people, I think that's pretty normal. Most like, I guess, right wingers, conservative, they went through that arc of being like kind of a neocon, you know, maybe in the late 2000s, going into like the kind of early 2010s, and then moving into libertarianism. And then Trump really popularized nationalism. And you know, things have been different really ever since. Really changed the whole dialectic in the right wing.
Actually, I was a big supporter of Israel, believe it or not, because that's just what there was. If you were a conservative and you were looking for viral conservative content on YouTube, it was all pro-Israel, pro-free market, this kind of stuff. So
You weren't a gamer at all? You weren't playing video games at that age?
I was a gamer, but I was really more a political nerd. I was like a big geek.
That was like your first love.
Yes,
There were-
absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. At that age, it's nuts because I was just playing Halo. Like, I'll be honest with you. Again, a different generation.
Mhm.
I think I'm 10 years older, so but I mean, I was in the Halo. I just figured like maybe you would have been on COD or something.
Yeah, I mean, I played, I did a little video games, but I wasn't good at them. You know, I was always just more of a nerd when it came to the politics.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy, man. So because what I find interesting about you, like, because I've seen your show a few times, you do everything sort of off the cuff, like off the dome. Where are you actually getting your information? Like, how are you digesting all this and retaining this?
well, I get it from everywhere. You know, I honestly, I just read the New York Times every day. And I know people be surprised to hear that, but every day I just read everything in the New York Times. I read everything on Axios, which is another news platform, which is very mainstream. But I'm just on Twitter all day, getting tips and getting information. You know how it is. These days, to get the really hot stuff, the current events, you got to be on Twitter following people that are in the know.
My question with that,
That's true.
is, I feel like I'm getting to a point of, and I don't know.
It's like Twitter is great for the minute by minute breaking news stuff. If you want a more detailed collection of information or analysis, obviously you have to go to a publication, it has to be editorialized. I think a lot of people get the wrong idea because Nick gets asked this question constantly, like, "Hey Nick, like, what do you read? Where do you do your research and stuff like that?" And I think it kind of fundamentally betrays people's understandings of how you should be ingesting and digesting information. It's not like Nick is in like some like secret Telegram channel that has breaking news, or he has like deep contacts in every government. It's not like that. It's just so much of it, the information is out there. You just need to go find it and understand it. And I think a lot of people, their news, they expect something to be editorialized or spoon-fed to them. They want, they think, some people I think that Nick is going out there and getting all his talking points from somebody else. Like he's watching like some Fox News host or something. And I think that really shows kind of the difference in intelligence between, somebody like Nick, who I would argue is, he clearly has a very high IQ. He's in the sort of intellectual class, and kind of everybody below that. This really kind of deep dive political stuff is not for everybody. And so I think a lot of people, maybe they're not used to it because of the way everything's been sensationalized and editorialized and spoon-fed to people through, influencers or like talk show hosts. But this idea that somebody just kind of reads and comes to their own conclusion and does research on their own, sees names and organizations in some of these articles and then does research independently on those, that's like alien to most people because most people don't do that. And so when people ask that question, it's sort of like, I don't think they understand. I don't think they understand, like, they're not familiar with Nick's game, So.
If it's just because the overall presentation of certain things or certain events that are happening, but I'm always like, is this real? Is this the truth, or is this, they're always like, oh, it's Russian propaganda, or it's propaganda from this side or that side, or I'm always like, because whenever you say, oh, this is a thing, it's always like, well, that's not real. That's not true. Like, how do you know what's true? How do you discern what's true and what's not true?
Well, the thing is, when you have a lot of deep background knowledge, you can read the New York Times and sort of read between the lines of what they're really saying or what they mean, because everyone's getting the same news. Everyone's getting the same news from the Newswire, from the Associated Press, or from Reuters, or the U.S. intelligence community. If you are a discerning reader, you kind of have to know the motivations of the sources. So if they come out, like with the current war with Iran or in Gaza, if they come out and they say U.S. intelligence says this or the Israeli government says that, if you kind of have a sense of what they want and what they're pushing, you kind of understand why they're saying what they're saying. And I guess maybe it starts from a simple assumption, which is they're going to report something and you're going to have a reaction. Now, your reaction was their intention. Whatever your response is, you have to think they wanted me to respond in this way. So, for example, years ago, there was a story about Russia was paying Islamists in the Middle East to kill Americans. They were putting a bounty on the heads of American soldiers. Now, if you think at that time, what do they want me to think? They want me to be anti-Russia. They want me to think Trump is being soft on Russia. So if the average reader is reading this and not thinking too much, they're going to say, Trump is soft on Russia. He needs to be harder.
Right.
That's a way for the New York Times to pressure the Trump administration to be more tough on Russia. They're trying to incite the population to have a certain opinion and demand that he has a certain foreign policy posture. And so it's not necessarily, you go to a certain obscure website that has all the real information.
Right.
It's more like you just kind of need to have a certain sense and a certain background knowledge to see what is the intention of the mainstream media, to kind of read between the lines and understand it's a regulated press.
Yeah. So when you do that, though, you don't think you have biases when in your sort of assumptions of, okay, what is the real thing here?
I do. I think everybody has a bias, but I just try my best to be objective. I try my best. That's why I read something like the New York Times, or I read the institutional press. I read the Israeli press, for that matter.
Yeah.
For all I get heat, the big thing people say I'm anti-Semitic. I read the Jerusalem Post. I read the Times of Israel every day. To get every side of the equation.
Yeah. Why do you think, though? What do you think the biggest reason is why people say you're anti-Semitic?
Well, it's just like everything else. There was a time, which I think we're now emerging out of, thankfully. You can call it wokeness, you can call it political correctness, but there was this time of immense sensitivity for maybe 10, 15, 20 years in the country, where if you say anything that is against the grain on race, on Jews, on women, on homosexuals, on transgenders, you get called these names: racist, sexist, anti-Semite, Islamophobe, homophobe. And, I got started really at the peak of that period in 2017, at the height of that like anti-Trump hysteria. People forget even what it was like. Now it kind of goes without saying, the things you hear on Joe Rogan, the things you hear from Theo Von, Shane Gillis, you say they would have never gotten away with that 10 years ago. So I consider myself to be relatively moderate, and I know you would have to push back. I have a provocative sense of humor. I'm pretty bombastic, but I consider myself moderate.
Yeah, this is the one thing about you that like because I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen like the Hitler comments, the when you say the N-word jokingly, and I see it and I think like, not that all those things are so bad, but to the majority of people who are like looking at you from the outside and not knowing enough, they're going to immediately sort of disavow you.
Right.
So like I was talking to Dan about this too. Like a lot of stuff he says, he'll tweet a lot of stuff. And I'm not saying whether it's true or untrue or false or not, but it can come across to the majority who are like, this just seems like a hateful individual because they're saying this, because they're willingly saying that, and they're joking about that. And I'm not saying I'm in the right all the time. I joke about stupid shit all the time. Sometimes I'm like, damn, I wish I didn't say that. Is there anything that you wish you didn't say, or you didn't sort of transverse the way that you have?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot
Probably what the Fuentes rally too.
A lot of things where after the show, I sort of immediately regret it. And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have. Yeah, I went a little too hard here. And you know how it is when you're a content creator, even a comedian. I consider myself something like a comedian. I make a lot of jokes. My show's very funny. And I think any comedian will tell you especially when you're doing it improv, when you're doing it without a script, and you don't have that time to kind of think about it, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you do a joke and it doesn't land. It doesn't work. It's too far. It has the wrong tone, maybe. Yeah. And so I can't think of anything off top.
We're all human beings, you know? Not every joke lands. Not every point is as salient as you would hope it would be. You know, maybe you fumble your words a little bit. You fumble the delivery. It's a live show. And, and people are constantly watching and clipping a show. So sometimes the missteps get, maybe blown out of proportion.
My head, but I do get what you're saying, but a big part of what I do that I think a lot of people don't realize, when I got started at the age of 18, there are these like nonprofit groups like the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, SPLC, Right Wing Watch, which is under People for the American Way. There are these, and it's not to make excuses, but this is how it works. You do have these left-wing nonprofits. They're paid by the left or various billionaires, and their job, it's literally they will have interns and people on the payroll that watch my show every single night as a left-wing person or someone that disagrees with me. And they will literally clip, and I'm sure you know, even this is how it works in media in general. Anything that sounds bad, even if it's a joke, even if there's bigger context, they will take the 10-second clip and they say, oh, the white nationalist hater is at it again. He just said this, and deprived of the context of the tone, if it's a joke. Over 10 years, I do a show every night. You collect enough of those 10-second clips, you can paint a picture of somebody where it's like, this is a lunatic, this is a raving maniac. And a lot of people don't realize this is a political operation that gets paid to create these clips for the purpose of reputational destruction. And I decided from an early age, I'm not playing games. I'm not going to be guarded all the time and manage everything I say. Oh, I hope this doesn't sound bad in a 5-second clip. I said, I'm going to be myself. And I always thought eventually people will watch the show and they'll figure out who I really am. But that is a very dishonest aspect of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that even outside of that, your specific political sphere, that happens on the internet, period. For creators, for anything, whether it's like some relationship drama or some parasocial shit where they're like, oh, this is happening. I mean, the most popular thing I think recently is like the live streamers. They'll get a clip and they'll put, and this is not specific to any single person, but they'll put like a caption over a video where it's like, it's just to create sensationalism of a situation that isn't actually that sensational. Right. But I guess I'm kind of curious on you is, do you, as you do your show or as you say certain things, are you aware, because I would consider you a very smart individual. Are you aware of the sensationalness where you're also adding fuel to that? Because you know that that's a real thing that's going to happen regardless. Are you also willfully doing that, knowing that?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I'm baiting them all the time. And actually early on, I think I did that a lot more when I was younger than I do now. I think I'm a little more mature. I'm a little more disciplined. But when I was younger and it was a different ecosystem, you almost had to bait them because we were, and by we, I mean the far right, conservatives.
No, that's so true. You had to use rage bait, and that's something I think was initially pioneered by Andrew Anglin. He would write something that was so bombastic and ridiculous to get people's attention. Right, rage bait before it became rage bait. You know, get everybody's attention, and then dial it in, and then clarify what you mean. Say something crazy like, we need to burn women at the stake again. And people are like, what do you mean? What? That's crazy. And then you watch the show and he's like, well, feminism is out of control and it's really, these women are out there, they're going crazy and they're divorcing their husbands and ruining and destroying families as a result of it. And that's a much more reasonable, palatable take.
We were being censored and even shadow banned. We were being suppressed.
Yeah.
And so at that time, it's like the only way to break out, especially for me, because I wasn't getting on Fox News. I wasn't getting on. Usually that's the program. If you're a conservative, you get the interview spot on Fox, on Blaze, on Daily Wire. I was blacklisted from everything and censored. So it was like the only way to break containment was to be outrageous. And so I'm not going to lie, I absolutely baited it. But the overriding priority for me always is just to try and be funny, to try and be entertaining and provocative and funny. And some people look at me and say, well, you're kind of cynically baiting people and you're a provocateur. I don't think I'm a provocateur. I think that I try to be challenging and funny, and by essence, that is provocative. If you try to be funny and you're not provocative, to me, that comes across as safe and stale and boring and not fresh. The things that are fresh and exciting and outrageous, they tend to be provocative. The stuff that people say, it's a guilty pleasure. They're like, I hate that I'm laughing at this, but it's so funny. I love that stuff. So that was always my goal.
I get it. It's just, I think in your sphere, like your ecosystem of political commentating, everyone going into it or watching or consuming the content or seeing you speak about, these big issues, geopolitical things, they're looking at you more so, I think, through that lens and not through the lens of a comedian. So when the comedy comes in, they're like, is this guy just hate this or hate that or hate those people, hate these people? I think that's how it can come across that, in my opinion, would then lessen your ability to reach a whole group of people that would be more apt to listen to you than they are because there's the jokes.
Right.
But at the same time, I can't tell you or any person how they should make content or how they need to show up in their content. But I think that's a large part of it. Cause then, like we were talking earlier, the groups that are there set out to sort of be like, hey, this is a bad guy. Don't listen to him, essentially.
Right.
Disavow him. It makes their job way easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would just say that, just a life philosophy is I just tend to be a free thinker.
Yeah.
And I think everybody considers themselves a free thinker, but I think that the moment that you start to tell yourself, I have to be on guard, I have to watch what I say, I think it's kind of all or nothing. You're either going to be that way and you're going to be very controlled and very intentional and you're going to be very
That's tough,
almost
man.
calculated and strategic, or you're just going to let it fly and you're going to be yourself and you kind of let the chips fall where they will. And I guess it's a matter, it really is like a fundamental life philosophy. I always thought, yeah, people are going to hate me. People are going to hate this. They're going to hate what I'm about to say. But that's also a big part of changing people's minds. I'm a big believer in you almost have to kind of shock people out of the old ways of thinking. I'm not a believer in this sort of, it's a big debate that goes on the right wing. Do you favor an incremental approach? Do you kind of drip feed and, leave a crumb trail where people can kind of find their way? Or do you punch them in the face, metaphorically, and say, this is the truth, it's outrageous, it's raw. And at first people are appalled, but then they're thinking about it and then they're on your side. It's sort of like you plant the seed. And being entertaining, I think, is part of it. If you take it almost too seriously, it almost plays worse. If you're me and you're very stern and very serious, people start to say, this guy is evil. This guy is like a calculating sociopath menace. Whereas if you kind of let your guard down and are vulnerable, wear your heart on your sleeve and say, I'm just a funny, weird guy, I think in a way it's almost disarming if people give you a chance,
It's just interesting because exactly what you said. I would speak to people in the industry about doing an interview with you, and they're like, "No, he's a calculated evil guy." But so it's like it goes.
So maybe it's backfiring.
So I'm like, for whatever that's worth, it's just I think you got yourself there somehow, right? And maybe it's certain comments you've made, like you talk about people say, "Oh, you're this white nationalist." Like, are you a white supremacist?
No,
okay.
No, I don't consider myself. I'm a believer in race. I think that race is real. Yeah. I think that there's white people and black people and that it's real and it means something to us.
Yeah.
But I'm a Catholic, so I think that we're all created equal by God.
Right. And so I guess kind of getting into this, your political sort of idea of what you want America to really look like. You want it to be more Catholic. You want it to be more Catholic driven, more Catholic sort of, I don't know if the right word is owned. but that's where you're coming. That's where like a lot of your messaging comes from.
Yeah, I want it to be more Christian, and in part, I'm Catholic, so in particular Catholic. And I think it needs to be more white. I do think it needs to be more European. I think that, you know, and I get I get this comment a lot. People say, "Well, you're Mexican. Your last name is Fuentes."
Yeah.
And it's true. My father is half Mexican. His father's 100% Mexican. We've always had black people in this country, Hispanics, Asians, going back hundreds of years. But we've had like 50 million immigrants come in 30 years. And I'm sitting here looking at a city like LA or like Chicago or New York, and I'm saying, when is enough enough? You know, we've had 50, 60 million people.
That's my question to you is, how do you say when enough is enough? Like, how, on your side, I understand your perspective, but where is it for you or for me or for anyone to say this is enough? Because this country also was founded on that basis of immigrants.
Well, I would push back on that a little bit. I would say that when the country was founded, it was almost all English people. It was almost all Northern Europeans, and almost all Protestants too. So it was ethnically homogeneous, racially homogeneous, religiously and culturally homogeneous. On all four of those cylinders, you had uniformity. And then you're right. In the 19th century, it was no longer ethnically homogeneous because Germans and Southern Europeans and
Italians.
I'm Italian too.
Yeah.
I'm half Italian. Yeah. We started coming in. And then in the turn of or I guess midway through the last century, then other races started coming in with other religions. And I guess the country has changed over time. There's no disputing that. And the changes are baked in. We're never going back in some sense. And I don't think it's even possible. But when you say it's enough is when they no longer are assimilating. When you start to feel like what America is, it starts to become uncertain. Does it mean speaking English? Does it mean being Christian? Does it mean having certain European values or constitutional values for that matter? A lot of the people coming in, they contest these things. And so you look at a city like LA where, you know, a few weeks ago, they're waving the Mexican flag, burning cars,
Sorry, I'm just making sure the stream is okay because some encoding lag. But I think this is like the stuff with like the ICE riots, for example. I think points out a clear. There's clearly tension between. There's growing tension between whites and non-whites in this country, and it calls into question what is America, what is an American, what is the foundation of this country. And I think to do that, you have to look at, well, who made the country? What's the history of this country? What has been the genetic and religious makeup of this country? And as that changes, and it's changing rapidly, you'll see this country change simply because the people within it are changing. And they bring all of, not only a difference of genetics, but largely because of difference of genetics, a different worldview. And they bring tribalism as well. People are tribal. Race matters. And as much as we'd like to pretend like it doesn't, or try to find ways to mitigate it, we cannot deny the clear reality that race is real. And it's often a source of tension. Diversity is a source of tension rather than a source of strength. And you see this throughout various parts of the world. Certainly, it's been a source of contention in, like, for the Middle East, for example. There's all of these different ethnicities and even denominations of Islam that create friction among the different Middle Eastern groups. And that's one of the big reasons why you don't see this sort of united Middle East in the way that you see, like, in Europe, for example, where Europe has been more capable or more willing to assemble along civilizational lines. And whereas other places, it becomes a point of contention where you have populations that sort of view themselves or fit into different groups. And when there's limited resources and everyone's vying for their slice of the pie, that creates conflict. It creates this us versus them dichotomy. And you see this in the Balkan Wars throughout the 90s. That's certainly been an angle of attack in the Middle East for destabilization. And so this myth of the melting pot or diversity being a great source of strength, it's just that, it's a myth. And I think people are really beginning to wake up to that when they see people waving foreign flags in America. It's like, wait a second. I thought you're supposed to check all of that at the door when you become American. Are we not? Are we not supposed to check all of that at the door and say, hey, we're American now. You're American, right? But clearly people still feel a certain way about it.
Protesting that illegals are being deported, you say, is this a free-for-all or is this a country? Or even in Texas, they want to build like a giant Muslim community center where people say that's going to be like Sharia law. There's going to be a giant mosque in the middle of it. Or in other places, they build a giant Hindu temple with huge statues. And you say, is America a whole? Is it a country? Or is it a patchwork of all these grafted nationalities where they kind of set up little India, little Somalia and Minnesota, little Mexico? And I think it's kind of undermining our national coherence.
But who is to decide what that is?
Well, ultimately, the people of the country, you know, I mean, we have a system where people vote. And I think that that's really what the Trump election was about. I think in 16 and 20, and even in some sense in 24, it was a referendum on what do we want America to be? Because Hillary Clinton said, forward, it's going to be the future is female and more diversity and more wokeness and more gayness and more everything. Yeah. And Trump said, no, we're in a sense going back. We're making America great again. There's like this recurrence. And I think that was a big referendum. The country said, we want the country to kind of be a little more conservative. We don't want to go so fast, so forward, and keep going in that same progressive direction.
But do you think that means that there just needs to be no inclusion of all those other things, you know, the mosques, these other things that we mentioned couldn't exist?
No, absolutely not. And I have a kind of complicated view on this. America has 350 million people. We're one of the most populous, one of the biggest countries. And we're, in a sense, no longer a republic, or even some would say, strictly speaking, a nation. Some say we're past that. We're really more, when you think about it, like Russia or like China, in the sense that we are a multi-ethnic, multi-religious empire. And so a country like Russia, they have a lot of Muslims living in Russia. They have a lot of Asians living in Russia. But when you think of a Russian, you think of a Slavic, ethnically Russian, Eastern Orthodox person. Nevertheless, Chechens and Dagestanis and Tatars and others are part of Russian identity. They're just on the periphery. Same thing in China. When you think of China, you think of a Han, ethnically Chinese person that speaks Cantonese or something like that. But you have Mongolians, Uyghurs. You have a lot of diversity in China. I think America can be the same way. We can be America with a black minority, which we always have had. We can be America with a large Hispanic minority. But the question is, if diversity goes too far, eventually America becomes nothing. Without that demographic core, without that monoculture that you could say America is rock and roll, hot dogs, baseball, red, white, and blue. In 50 years, is America going to be highlight and soccer and cricket and, you know, and people are speaking all these different languages? I'm concerned about preserving that ethnic core. So we can be America.
Nobody watches
with
Kino
diversity.
Casino.
We just can't have so much diversity.
Nobody
that there's
fucking
no longer
watches
America.
Kino Casino. That shit's irrelevant.
I guess my thought, like when I hear that is, you know, you talk about the future and like where it all goes. At some point, I mean, it seems like we're just going to be part human, part cyborg. Or excuse me, cyborg, right? Part human, part machine. Overall, not even speaking just America straight. And I guess I understand the ideas. It's just like when I think about it, who's deciding that, right? Like why?
Well, here you are.
We'll get into this to talk about the conflict in Gaza and the Israel stuff. Because
Kino Casino isn't
when I have
fucking
this whole
relevant,
conversation,
man.
I think about this. I go,
here's
what about
Nick.
what we did to the fucking Indians?
Here's Nick doing mainstream podcasts, and here you are seething, talking about Kino. Who's Kino Casino? Yeah.
Indians. What about what we did to the indigenous people? I mean, we essentially did what.
Yeah, here
a lot
you
of
are,
people
man. Here
today
you
would
are.
say,
Nobody knows what Kino, dude. Like, holy crap, man. Yeah.
Israel is doing to the people in Palestine.
Yeah, good luck,
like
man.
removing these people from this area, right? What do they call it? Genocide, ethnic cleansing, all these things.
Yeah, here
right?
you are. Here you are.
Took this space here. So I sometimes I have this conversation with people. A lot of times off camera, I'm like, at what point do we decide that it's not okay anymore? And I don't think killing, murdering people, removing people from a country, removing people from an area is ever okay.
Well, What brings you
America was
here
also
other than
founded on
to
that.
just A-log and
So at what point are we discerning and saying
like
that,
here
like,
we're
okay,
watching we're watching like one of the biggest podcasts in the world reacting to some content here. Who the fuck is Kino Casino? He's not a Fed. He's not dude, Sneed, really? What year is it, bro? Sneed? We're still doing Sneedo? Why didn't he go to jail? Well, what did he do on January 6th? Did he do anything illegal? No. He didn't go into the building. He didn't tell anyone to go into the building. So what would they charge him with? He's not guilty of anything. Clearly not guilty of anything. So you can cope all you want. Sounds like you're the one seething here, buddy.
Like, for example, if we speak about Israel and in that whole conflict in Gaza, that's not okay.
People
I do think it's not okay.
He did not tell people to go into the fucking building, man. He was telling people not to go into the building. Our
country was also founded on a similar action. We came in, we said, speak our language. This is our religion. Here's a lot of diseases because you know your immune system didn't jive with ours.
You're just a seething A-log, man. Get over it.
And then we made it what we're talking about right now. So like when I hear it from like a really like bird's eye perspective, like I don't have skin in all these games. I'm an American. I love America. At the same time, I can look at it and say, well, it was founded on the same principles that you know we're demonizing this country for now.
Very good.
That's why we exist here,
right?
Yeah, I live in fantasy.
When is it right?
This is why you know people like you. Nobody likes people like you. You people have no motion. You're just weirdos. You're freaks. This is why Nick is on a generational run. He's just propelling himself into the mainstream, and here you are just seething in a small streamer chat. Here you are. You are here. Irrelevant. That's very sad. That's very sad, man. You gotta do something. You gotta figure something else out. I don't know what to tell you. I think there's something wrong with you.
I would say that in terms of when I evaluate right and wrong, it comes down to individual actions, you know, because I understand what you're saying, which is that,
like,
and I'm actually
still doing N-word towers in the Big 25. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. That's just crazy. I don't know what to tell you.
Even sympathetic to it. When you look at what the Israelis are saying, in a certain sense, in a narrow sense, you can understand where they're coming from, which is that they were stateless. The Jews were without a country for 2,000 years. They were in that land. They were expelled. And then they were a minority in Europe and in all these other places. And because they were a minority, because they lacked power, they were abused. And so they were subject to the Inquisition and the pogroms and the Pale of Settlement and the Holocaust ultimately and all these things. And that was the basis for Zionism, which is we need a country of our own. Now, easier said than done, because it turns out all the countries are taken, you know, so you have to settle one. And they came into the Mandate of Palestine, and they fought with the Palestinians, and they declared independence. You have to go through the whole history. But needless to say, they're sort of throwing elbows and jockeying to try and get comfortable in the Middle East, in a region that doesn't want them there. But the question becomes, how do you conduct the war? And I would point to something very simple.
Oh, thanks.
So in Gaza, they've destroyed all the infrastructure.
I appreciate
literally
it.
all of it. All the buildings, all the roads.
I will say, you know, because some people were a little frustrated that I was like talking during it. It was live, so I didn't want to pause, you know, this might not be relevant to most people. I didn't want to like pause it because I'm reacting to a live stream, you know, and that kind of like ruins the, you know, it kind of ruins the, what would you say, the vibe, because it's no longer live when I'm pausing constantly. But I also don't want to sit there just nodding along for an hour, you know, like, because then it's kind of uncouth to just like rip somebody else's stream without, you know, adding anything to it. Because I don't think Alex Jones would copyright strike me or anything like that, but, you know, fair use and all that. So you don't want to just sit there like, you know, not contributing anything. So it's kind of a balancing act. I don't know if I did it the best, but I'm trying here.
Hospitals, schools. It's intentional that they're doing that. And even when you look at how they're killing people, a veteran, a Green Beret, just came back the other day and said they're using Palestinians going to these aid distribution sites for target practice. So these people that are starving to death are going to get their food and water from these distribution sites, and they're getting shot by the IDF, defenseless, vulnerable people that are hungry. Hamas isn't even launching rockets anymore. They have no ability to counterattack. And you say, the Israelis will say, well, it's a war. That's what happens in a war. When you fight, people die. But in Iran, you can see in the war in June, they will literally target a single apartment with a drone strike. It's so precise. It's so targeted. They're doing assassination strikes with drones. They will hit one apartment. Forget about the whole building and the whole city. And so if you can detonate pagers and radios, if you can blow up one apartment, if you're the most sophisticated military with precision-guided munitions, how are you accidentally destroying 90% of the buildings and committing 100,000 civilian casualties and shooting children and people getting aid? At that point, it's intentional. And you look at what they say, which is,
that is so salient, because they've blamed everything that's gone on in Palestine. They've just blanketly blamed Hamas for everything. Oh, we have to blow up entire hospital buildings because of like one Hamas officer. Oh, we have to destroy blocks upon blocks of apartment buildings because there's Hamas everywhere. They're using civilians as human shields. And that is just such that's a brilliant point. Clearly, that's not the case. They don't need to conduct that level of destruction and you can see this, I could even pull it up, maybe not right now, but when they were during the breakout period of the what was it, the calling it the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, just a few weeks ago, they had precision munitions on the apartment buildings where some of these top Iranian officials were living, and you could see the hole in the side of the building, a tiny hole like that big, where the munition entered and detonated on the inside. So clearly they have the means, they have the capabilities, they have the sophistication, they have the intelligence to conduct these precision strikes. Yet clearly that does not align with what we're seeing in Gaza. And Israel even built those tunnels under the hospitals. True. And here's another thing. I mean, look, Hamas has been infiltrated. Hamas, Hezbollah, even I would argue even parts of the Iranian government have been heavily infiltrated by Mossad for years. Israel was supporting Hamas. They wanted Hamas to come into power because that would give them the enemy, their pretense to enter Gaza. They wanted a more radical government, a more radical contingent in Palestine that they could fight, that they could prop up as a so-called like worthy adversary. And that's exactly what they got with October 7th. They got everything they wanted. And again, it almost begs the question, they're still crying about release the hostages. But every time they've tried to negotiate with Hamas, they kill the negotiator. They've assassinated dozens upon dozens of Hamas leaders and negotiators. It does make you wonder, like, would it really, like, what would they say if Hamas did release the hostages? Would they stop? So the point I'm trying to make is the fact that Hamas has not released the hostages, which, by the way, even the fact that they do have hostages does not give Israel the justification to level all of Palestine. But the fact that Palestine has been leveled, the hostages are still in custody, how much of this is just the infiltration from the IDF holding on to the hostages to keep the pretense that this conflict, this level of destruction is justified because they're holding hostages? At this point, it's clear, like, it's part of the atrocity propaganda. I think that they want to, and they really want the Hamas to hold on to the hostages, because for as long as Hamas holds on to hostages, or at least claims they have hostages, they can continue this, and their justification, they can continue these strikes against Palestine. I think they'd be really disappointed if the hostages were released. That's why I'm thinking, like, look, clearly, can you really negotiate with Israel at this point? They have no intention of negotiating. That should be abundantly clear. They've killed every Hamas negotiator, Hezbollah negotiators. They're assassinating high-ranking officers in Iran. This is not somebody you can really negotiate with. And so I think in reality, Israel wants Hamas to keep the hostages for as long as possible. And so that leads me to believe, well, that decision to keep the hostages by Hamas might be coming from some infiltration, from some Israeli infiltrator, because they brag about infiltrating these groups top to bottom. That's how the pager attack, that's how they conducted this highly sophisticated pager attack that took years of preparation, thousands of pagers detonating in an instant, killing and maiming dozens upon dozens of Hezbollah members, and as well as innocent bystanders. So if they can, that level of that could only be possible with high level infiltration in Hezbollah. So, I mean, the whole world the whole world is putting the pieces together, and they're saying, I think Israel's full of shit here, because you see footage of Gaza, and it's like a gray, formless mass of rubble. It's really dystopian. It's absolutely horrific, and everybody can see that, and that's why more and more countries are recognizing Palestinian statehood, at least ostensibly. Now it's really just America that is supporting Israel. We're kind of alone.
This is an ethnic cleansing. They say we want all these people out of the land. Now, there's an argument to be made about how do you carry that out? I mean, what is the solution to Israel-Palestine? But the solution is not starving children to death and shooting innocent people that are defenseless and getting aid, blowing up their homes so they have nowhere to go. That's wrong. So that's where I come at it from. You can kind of get the Israelis have a case to make that this is not an ideal living situation for them. At the same time, we all have moral responsibility, especially now.
Yeah, the one thing I'll get on Twitter and I'll see just the reactions to this is like even from like a lot of our, I don't know if they're Congress people or senators, they had great check mark.
Mm-hmm.
And I see them and they're just like almost like hurrahing on this death of these innocent people, as if like, well, if they wanted it to stop, then Hamas would just stop.
Right.
And it always seems to be like the deflection. Because I'm like, but like you said, should it just be, well, they should just stop? And I see it and I'm like, that's just like complete void of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is this child supposed to do? Like, how are they supposed to rise up and be like, the 6-year-old be like, Hamas, please stop. Like,
Right.
how does that work? And then my perspective shifts and I go, kind of like what you said, speaking of Israel and the precision and how much intelligence, and even what we're told as far as Israel being, our greatest ally, in the sense that they have this like superior intelligence and this superior military. And like, obviously they have a lot of our military because we give them so much aid and they buy stuff from us. Then you go like, it's almost like as if the United States, with its superior power in military expertise and like the craziest intelligence, would be like bombing Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And then being like, oh, but they should just figure it out. And it kind of makes me question, like, because then I'll see these things and they'll be like, well, this was a mistake and that was a mistake. And I'm like, but at the same time, we're told that they have the best intelligence. So how do you have this level of intelligence and this level of power, and you still make these mistakes, or you still do these things, or you still just blame the other side?
Right.
And that's why October 7th makes no sense. That's why October 7th, it's like, seriously. So we're to believe that the IDF and the Mossad are the most sophisticated intelligence agency in the entire world. They've been able to infiltrate Hamas, Hezbollah, deep in, with the Iranian government as well. Certainly they're heavily influential in America and in other Western countries. They've got eyes and ears everywhere. They carry out these sophisticated attacks that take years of preparation in advance. And yet they don't see a couple guys in like little propeller hang gliders, right, with AKs and RPGs flying over the most secure border in the world. Like, they're just totally unprepared for that. Like, does anybody seriously believe that? It's ridiculous. That border is the most monitored, most secure border in the entire world. And they just didn't see these guys, They didn't. It's literally unbelievable. Combine that with and look, to get more specific, you look at the level of destruction that happened in October 7th, and it could not have been conducted purely by Hamas. Hamas, with their small arms, their AKs, their grenades, etc., could not have inflicted the level of destruction that we saw on October 7th. And even the IDF, their reports corroborate this claim that, and there have been whistleblowers, this is mainstream, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, talking about how they opened fire on their own people. Apache helicopter pilots opened fire on their own people. Tanks, IDF members, mortar fires, they were attacking their own people. You see these parking lots that are completely burned out. All the vehicles are blown up. No way could Hamas do that themselves. And this actually lines up with Israel's, they have military doctrine. It's called the Hannibal Directive, where they will kill their own people. This is true. They will kill their own people to prevent them from falling into the hands of their enemy. Because when they're in the hands of their enemy, they can be used as leverage. Hostage situation. They didn't want that to happen, supposedly, and so they killed a significant number, if not the majority of the people that died on October 7th. And of course, they blame it all on Hamas. So they have this atrocity. They run the atrocity propaganda, and that gave them the pretense to then invade Palestine and bomb the shit out of it. And then they're just running atrocity propaganda when it was mostly self-inflicted. Like, this is just how twisted they are.
Without being able to come to sort of like conclusion and like, peace agreement or an actual ceasefire and stopping this, or how do we get those people out of there in a way that they're not being used as, human shields or whatever they're saying. And then I'll see the tweets of these like people in our government just being like, fuck them, they should just give back the hostages and get Hamas out.
Right.
Like it feels helpless.
It does. And what's evil about it is that collective guilt, where they say Hamas attacked us. Every 2 million people are now guilty. And not only are they guilty, but they get the death penalty. Hamas did this attack, and they believe it was perpetrated by 25,000 people. They say, well, now 2 million people are effectively sentenced to death. Everything is justified against them, whether they're armed or unarmed, whether they're men or women, whether they're adults or children. They're all guilty, and they're all going to die for it in the most cruel way. They're starving them out. Like, there's now over 100 deaths from famine. And these are pictures that are coming out. You don't see pictures like that coming out of Iraq or Afghanistan or any of the wars we've been involved in out of Ukraine.
It's absolutely horrific. And of course, they blame that again on Hamas. Saying, oh, Hamas are withholding aid. Yeah, seriously? For what purpose? Like, that doesn't even make sense. For what purpose? It's so egregious. And I think the official death count number that I want to say Israel's put out, they say 60,000, roughly, direct deaths, Palestinian deaths from this conflict. Mostly over half are women and children. Mostly civilian. The Lancet Journal put out a study. This is last year, actually. I think in July. And keep in mind, in July, it was like 37,000 last year. So the direct deaths is probably higher than 60,000, I'm willing to believe. I think that's a gross underestimate. But anyway, the Lancet Journal, they compared this conflict to similar conflicts, and they found that there's a ratio of direct to indirect deaths of 1 to 5, meaning for every direct death, there's 5 indirect deaths. So it follows that if there are 60,000 direct deaths, using that formula, right, and this is due to things like famine, loss of infrastructure, overexposure, disease, etc., leading to these deaths, so not directly combat. So if there are 60,000 direct deaths, it follows that there's a good estimate would be 300,000 indirect deaths. So I don't think it's outside of the realm of plausibility that we are approaching, if not we've already exceeded 400,000 Palestinian deaths as a result of this conflict. Yet they still have the chutzpah to cry about October 7th, as if that's like a fair justification for this.
And this is unique to this conflict where they've shut down all the food, all the water, and you realize it's intentional. And what the Israelis do is they just hide behind this narrative about, well, Hamas attacked us first. Does that mean you have no moral responsibility? I think everybody recognizes in a hostage situation, in any situation involving a soft target, you have moral responsibility, especially when you're the more powerful entity. Israel's a nuclear power. They have a nuclear arsenal. They've got modern fighter jets. They've got modern precision-guided missiles, a standing army, a country. The Palestinians have rockets, these tiny rockets. There's 20,000 of them. They don't have a government. Yeah. They don't even have a state. And people say there's any kind of parity here. There's any kind of equality between these two regimes. Even when you're fighting an insurrection, you have culpability. And this is what I point out on my show to take it a step further. A lot of leftists will criticize the conduct of the Israeli government, and they'll say it's a racist government. They'll say it's a settler colonialist government. It's capitalist. That's why they're evil. I would contend it is on some level because they are not Christian. Because Netanyahu gave a speech last year, and he said that the Palestinians are Amalek. Amalek is a biblical term. It refers to a story in the Old Testament where the Israelites wipe out an entire race. They're called the Amalekites. And Yahweh tells them, kill all the women, all the children, murder all of them, genocide them so their bloodline stops. That's the language Netanyahu uses, which is literally...
Those are his own words.
He said they're Amalek, yes. And that's a reference to that Bible story. And if you read anything about the Israeli government, anything even about Talmudic Judaism, what they say is, we don't love our enemies. They say that the non-Jews, we don't even consider them human. They don't have souls. They don't have moral culpability. They say, and we have very little regard for their lives.
Is the Talmud, though,
is that their big red pill for a lot of people?
Sort of book, or is it the Torah?
That is their governance. So the Torah is the Hebrew Bible. And technically, the Talmud is part of the Torah. Torah means teaching. So you have the written Torah, which is the Hebrew Bible. Then you have what is called the oral Torah, which is a tradition that was passed down orally. Now, the basis of Judaism is the 613 commandments in the Bible. So there's the 10 commandments that are famous, but there are other commandments about clothing, about diet, about all these other things. You know, when you think about Jewish people, they're very litigious about how they cut their hair, about if they can mix fabrics, about how they wash their hands, if they can mix meat and dairy. So they have 613 commandments. That is what you would call the written Torah. The oral Torah is how they interpret and apply those. 613 is not enough to govern every facet of life. So what the rabbis do is they have to interpret how they apply. That's what you call the Talmud. And the Talmud it's basically rabbis debating each other about how we interpret those commandments. And it's been refined and rewritten over thousands of years. But that is the basis of Jewish law. It's those written commandments and the oral application of them. That constitutes the whole of Jewish law. So it is the Torah also.
Because I feel like as I've talked to Jewish people about the Talmud, and they sort of dismiss it as if it's not the main governance of like their religion.
It is, though. Any Jewish student who goes to a yeshiva or a Jewish school, that's like Ben Shapiro, he studies the Talmud. The Talmudic Judaism, that is the Judaism of today. Without it, you can't interpret Jewish law.
And so your conclusion, your assumption is that if they were Christian or if they were Catholic, it wouldn't be like that?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it wouldn't be like that, but in principle,
okay, I think I fixed the problem.
In principle, you could oppose it. Because what a Christian says is love your enemy, turn the other cheek, pray for your enemy. Because we believe that everybody is a child of God. Thankfully. We believe, contrary to the Jews, Christianity is a universal religion, meaning that all someone has to do as a Catholic, we believe, is profess a belief in Jesus Christ, get baptized, be confirmed into the church. Anyone can be a Catholic. Jews do not believe that.
Let's
Jews
see if I can also
you can only be a Jew by the matrilineal line, matrilineally by the mother. And so Christians then say we forgive the enemy. You know, the golden commandment is treat your your neighbor like yourself and forgive your enemy. And so I think that if you had a Christian government prosecuting this war, someone could credibly say, this is contrary to our religion.
So, okay. So I'm not going to, obviously, I gotta kind of contest a little bit this idea, right? And the reason being is that when I think about all of these issues and I think about just the world in general, I don't know if could it be assumptive that it's just because of a religion? Because we could look at Catholicism, Christianity, like how much stuff have we done that's fucked up? Like we talk about what we did over here, coming to America, we speak our language. This is your religion now. You worship the earth and the ground and the seasons, and that's wrong. This is right. So that concept, we also did that in the name of God, in the name of Catholicism, to a whole group of people. So
I already know Nick
when you
has
say
a good
this, like
response
I
for this.
hear
He's heard
it, and
this
I
a
can
thousand
understand
times.
why you
I've heard this
based
a
on
thousand
their
times.
teachings. But at the same time, we believe the same things that you're talking about now. Then we still murdered a bunch of people for our, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and that's why I say it wouldn't make it impossible. That's why I was careful to say you could credibly say in principle, if a Christian government were doing what they're doing, you could point to the letter of the law and say, this is wrong. Because you're right, Christian regimes have done bad things in the past. But I think a big reason why things have gotten better, when you say, why was it that hundreds of years ago there was conquest, and how can you say the laws of conquest are no longer allowed today? That it's wrong. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If it was right for us to do it, why is it not right for the Israelis to do it? I would say that part of the reason why things have gotten better over time, why there are now laws of war and a right to protect, why there are, we look at what's happening in Israel, people say this is wrong. I think a big part of it is because of Christianity. I mean, let's not pretend it was the Christian West which evangelized the world. I mean, yes, there was colonialism all around the world, but also there were missionaries that evangelized the indigenous people. When the Europeans came to this continent, there was human sacrifice, there was cannibalism, and it was, contrary to what people believe, it was widespread because the indigenous people in particular here, they couldn't get protein because they ate so much corn. Like a lot of it was because of their diet. There were a lot of problems with that. Cannibalism was a huge part of their culture. Human sacrifice, child sacrifice. And so, yes, we brought smallpox, and yes, we brought with us imperialism, which had a cultural expression as well, but we also made them Christian. And same thing in Africa, and same thing in Asia.
So you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. But the idea that I'm speaking to is, at what point is it okay for someone to implement or to force their beliefs onto another person? And at what point is it not okay? When is it okay? When is it not okay? Because you said they come and they evangelize these people, right? What does that mean? That means make them apart, believe what we believe.
Right.
Like what I'm saying is, how are we just determining as humans when that's right and wrong? Like you're sitting in this position and I'm having this conversation right now today, and we're talking about the past and we're talking about what's current. But at the same time, what I'm getting at is that it's still a human thing where how are we discerning that now is okay and then it wasn't, or now it's not okay, but then it was? Because I hear what you're saying.
Right.
But it's still going in the circle of like, well, we made it better, but we made it better for us.
I think we made it better for the whole world. I think
do you think the indigenous people, do you think the people who were here before, like, they made it better for me? No, they killed them.
I think but there's a survivorship bias there, isn't there? In the sense that the people that were killed by cannibalism and human sacrifice, they're not around today to say,
yeah, but
I'm sure they would think it's better.
But I'm saying the people that we came and killed because they didn't want to join us because they liked their way of life. They liked the way that they lived. They liked the things that they sort of believed in or worshiped or thought were right at that time.
Right.
Like that was their whole, like right now it's the same thing as if someone came into the US and was like,
well, I guess it obviously depends on what matters. It doesn't matter so much as what you like. I mean, I think Bradley Martyn's taken a bit of a kind of a moral relativist position here. It is to say that the question is, do you believe in objective morality, something that is objectively right and clearly defines what is objectively right and what is objectively wrong? And so this idea that I think he kind of glosses over this concept and makes the assumption that well, it's maybe a difference of opinion or different kind of way of life, and that, you know, maybe the human sacrifices, that could also be a potential valid way of life. And any Christian would disagree with that. Any Christian would say, well, no, we do believe that there's an objective morality. And you could look at the 1,000-foot picture, and Christianity put an end to the human sacrifices and condemns human sacrifices. And look, that's not to say Christians don't do bad things. That's kind of the whole point of the religion, is that we are sinful people, that we have sin in us and we do bad things. But we ought to strive not to do those things. And it clearly defines what is good and what is bad. And I think, so to that point, I think a lot of the people that, like the conquistadors or the colonists, a lot of the people that killed, I think, frankly, kind of deserved it. If you're conducting human sacrifices, I think that needs to end. And if you're going to defend that way of life, and be unrepentant for that way of life, I mean, that's sick, and we should not defend that. That's something that needs to be dismantled. I mean, seriously, can anybody honestly make a defense for human sacrifices? Oh, because that's how they did it and they liked it. Well, ask the people who got sacrificed, or the people whose children got sacrificed. I don't think they liked it very much. And as Nick said, well, they're not around. So I think people often, you know, when they make that point, they're actually running defense for these, honestly, these savage religions
from a different planet. It was like, this is now your way of life. If you don't like it, we're going to kill you. And you have to believe this, and you have to think this, and this is your new religion. The concept is still the exact same thing.
Right.
And so, like, that's the in my brain, I'm like, it's a human thing. I think humans are just innately greedy and
I agree
fucking
with
evil.
you.
Like,
I agree. Well, and let's also not pretend that colonialism was inherently motivated by evangelization. I'm not making that case. What I'm saying is that because the Christian West kind of won the last 500 years through colonialism and the technological race and everything else, my point is, when we look at something like Gaza and we say that's against the rules of war, who created the rules of war? They were created out of World War I, at the pinnacle of all these Christian empires, in my opinion, motivated by Christian principles. It wasn't the communists that made any kind of prohibitions against human rights violations. It wasn't Muslims. It wasn't Jews. It was the Christians. And, you know, to your point about what you're saying is really something like moral relativism.
Yeah, that's what I just
At what
said.
point do you say, we're right, you're wrong, it's going to be our way? And I think that first, it's a question of how do you know you're right? And
that's a big question. It's like, you know, which do you prefer, you personally? Like Christian society, or, you know, an ancient, you know, Aztec society? Or any of these other societies that conducted human sacrifices? I think that's self-evident. I think it's very easy to look at the wrongs that any group of people do, especially in the context of the modern day where the wrongs are constantly amplified. But look, clearly, I think 99.9% of people, repeating, would prefer to live in a Christian society versus an Aztec society, you know, some kind of pagan society. Overwhelmingly, I think it's more civil. I think it's more hospitable. It's more kind. And I think that points to a truth in morality. I think that just what is self-evident indicates that there's truth to it. You know, the fact that we produce more functioning societies, a more polite and civil society, I think that says a lot. And so it is to say that if you think it's just a matter of a difference of opinion, I mean, you have to, what you're essentially doing is you're placing these like other old world, like pagan religions on somewhat of an equal level as Christianity, and say, well, both could be viable. Like, you would have to defend that argument. You would have to defend the human sacrifices. And that's not to say war doesn't happen in Christian societies, but war also happens in the Americas before. It happened in the Americas before the colonists came. So it's kind of a moot point. But I think there's been less war, if anything, far more productivity and peace since Christians came to power.
I would say conscience is a big one. As Catholics, we believe that God wrote the moral law on our heart. We inherently know right and wrong. When we see a vulnerable person being attacked, you know, there was like a clip the other day. There's like a lot of these videos now of like, you know, interracial violence, like black people beating up white people and vice versa. And one thing that people point out is like brutality. Let's say somebody gets knocked down. A lot of the times in these videos, you see people that start kicking their head. Someone gets knocked on the ground and the attacker's kicking them in the head, stomping them, even past the point where the person's not a threat. And everyone goes, ooh, that's wrong. You know, they shouldn't do that. So we have conscience, we have revelation. According to the Old Testament, you have the prophets, but there's other claims. There's Joseph Smith, there's Muhammad, you have to evaluate those revelations. You have to evaluate the philosophies. That's every person's decision to make. But once you determine what's right, I think you have a moral obligation, actually, to fight for what's right, to fight for justice.
Yeah.
And to not say, well, let them be evil over there, you know?
Yeah. But that goes back to like, well, who's believing, like whose perspective is saying what is right and what is justice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously unique to everyone as far as they're drawing the lines back to religion, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
So that's where it's like, you know, you could have this conversation about the worst individuals in history and say, did they believe that what they were doing was right at the time when they did it?
Right.
I would say that I believe everyone thinks they're doing what is right at the time when they're doing it, because that's what we do. We do. I believe people do the best that they can with what they have when they have it. And then, you know, obviously historically you look back and you go, maybe that wasn't the best. But I don't think like, do you think the Jewish people, or excuse me, not just necessarily Jewish people, Israel and Israeli government is doing what they believe is right? Or do you think they're willfully doing what they believe is wrong?
Oh yeah, they absolutely are doing what they believe is right.
Okay.
But that's why I say you have to evaluate the different systems.
Yeah.
And say that in their system, what is their system based upon?
You're saying this religion. You're saying
100%, yes. And contrary even to what left-wing, because left-wing people say it's Zionism. I would say that Zionism obviously is inextricably connected to the Jewish religion.
Absolutely. And they would say as much. You know, you can look at the ADL. They themselves claim that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. It's a key aspect of the Jewish faith. This idea that the Jewish people, God's chosen people, would survive a coming cataclysm on God's chosen land, which is Israel, etc., etc. End of the world, all that, get into the Talmud. And so it's not like this is just some radical, small contingent of Judaism. It's a central pillar of it. And look, it's a little more complicated than that. Judaism, it's an ethno-religion, so not every ethnic Jew necessarily subscribes to that. But they certainly fall privy to the influence of that because they're immersed within it. When all their family and friends are a part of this tribe and they feel a very strong sense of ethnic kinship, that's some heavy duty peer pressure. They don't want to be ostracized by their own people, but they also want their own people to succeed. And so oftentimes this creates this willingness to go along with it or to defend their tribe or to downplay it because they're inextricably linked to it. And I empathize with that, but that doesn't, you can't run cover for wrongdoing. I understand, like, we're all tribal to a degree, but when it's that extreme to where you're downplaying or making excuses for an ongoing genocide, I mean, that is kind of a problem. I think that's clearly taken too far. It's taken too far to the extreme.
And what the Jewish religion, it's problematic. And you could even go to Jewish sources. There's a Israeli Jewish historian named Israel Shahak. He wrote a book.
I talked about him yesterday. Yeah, he's great.
Called 3,000 Years of History. And he talks about how for thousands of years, one of their great theologians, for example, Maimonides, they call him the Rambam, he is considered the Thomas Aquinas of Judaism, like the greatest scholar of Jewish law.
I think he said all
that
goy
every
must
Jew
die.
should pray for the death of every Christian every day.
Or specifically
and this
every Christian.
is loaded up in the Talmud. It's loaded up in Kabbalah, which is the mystic tradition, which is this intense hatred and distrust, in particular of Christians, but of all non-Jews in general. And many of the Zionist religious Jews, like the Kooks, actually they're called. There's a father and a son. Their name was Kook. They said they like that the Christian West is becoming atheist, because the sooner the Christian West becomes atheist, the sooner they will recognize the God of Israel and worship the Jews. It's like, so this is what they believe, and this is what is motivating their government.
And that's like, that kind of like, I think blows the lid on all of these. There's a lot of like Wignats and Natsock guys that are explicitly like anti-Christian, saying it's a Judaized religion. Look, that's coming straight from the horse's mouth, that Jews prefer atheism. They want people to be more atheist rather than Christian, specifically. And they've subverted Christianity, specifically Protestantism, to honestly to be idolatrous towards Jews. The dispensationalism is a heresy. It's explicitly condemned by the Catholic Church, and it's one that views Jews in today's day and age as still God's chosen people, and that Israel, the modern day state of Israel, is the Israel of the Bible. And that's just not the case. That doesn't follow traditional theology, traditional Christian, but specifically Catholic theology that states that we are the new Israel. The church is the new Israel. And so that verse in Genesis always gets quoted, bless those that bless Israel, but that is complete context denial when people use that to support the modern day secular state of Israel. Well, not really secular, but Jewish state of Israel, and their ongoing genocide. So there you go.
Their ideology, and it's even members of Netanyahu's own government. His ministers believe this stuff. The national security minister, the finance minister, members of the Knesset.
How do you verify that? How can you verify that?
They say it. It's in the Times of Israel. It's their press. It's in their statements. You don't have to look very far. You know, there's, I'll give you an example. So one of their ministers, I think it's either Smotrich or Ben Gvir, there was a highly publicized incident where Jews were spitting on Christian missionaries, spitting on them who were making a pilgrimage to the Christian holy
That's a constant occurrence, too. It's not a new thing either.
Sites, and it caused a big controversy in Israeli society. This is the Times of Israel. One of the current Israeli ministers said, spitting on Christians, that's an old Jewish tradition. It's not a crime. They shouldn't be arrested for that. It's fine.
As if that makes it any better.
So that's just one example. But I mean, if you literally just read what they write, it's all there.
So you're saying that they're willfully like just professing this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some of the more tactful ones will look at the extremists like that and say, oh, you don't say that publicly, because they want to maintain the illusion that everything's good between us and them.
You don't think that maybe that some of them want it to not necessarily be that way?
I do.
Because there's like a lot of that stuff obviously is not directly correlated to how we act or how we are in you know, our regards to religion, and it still shifts, it still grows. Like we could talk about Catholicism and their kids and they're doing all this stuff, and we're like, that's wrong. Most of us believe that's wrong. It happened. I don't know if it's still currently happening. I could only assume so.
Right.
But then there's the ones who go, that's wrong. What the fuck are you doing? They got lawsuits for this. And so my point is, like, don't you believe that, you know, even in this case, we're talking about Judaism and Israel, that there are some that are like, okay, this is wrong. This shouldn't be this way. We are evolving. And
there are, and absolutely there are. And I want to clarify, I'm not saying all Christians are good people, all Jews are bad. That would obviously be ignorant, because
that's insane.
We're all people. And everybody individually is both good and bad. Everybody individually makes good and bad decisions. So it would be ridiculous to say that. But in terms of a system of ideas, some systems of ideas are flawed. And I think that when you compare Christianity in principle, meaning relating to the definition of Christianity is self-sacrifice. Because Christianity is the idea of the Christ, which is giving your life for the sake of everyone, even those that put you on the cross. That's Christ, right?
Yeah.
Is the idea that he was nailed there and forgave them. Whereas the Jewish religion is based on something entirely different.
Yeah, this conversation is so interesting because we're relating, these theological ideas to humans. And I mean, that's, how we show up and how we believe or we think is right versus wrong. And then there's like what actually happens though.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's easy to stand from any position and speak like, this is it. And, God wrote this, or this was in this Testament, Old Testament, but are people really ever following that to a T? Are they really ever doing that on all sides and all religions? I
Right.
give so many examples. Like I have Muslims friends that, they pray, but then, I see them over here at a strip club, or
Right.
drinking, or it's so my thing is like, we're having this conversation right now about religion and God and the idea. And these obviously, these different religions have these different perceptions of God and what it is and how it exists and how it relates to them. And then human.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I've just always personally been so like, I've been so weirdly like connected, but also disconnected from like just religion.
Mm-hmm.
Like I fully believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
I fully believe that there's no way this is just random. It just doesn't make that. It's too perfect to be random. Also too terrible to be random. But I've always had this hard time really coming to like, this is the one true idea.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one true truth of like, this is what it is. And I don't know if we humans could ever get there until they get to the other side and see what happens, see what it is, or how they show up, or what's next. So we always have these
I just realized I'm fucking muted. Damn it. Ah! Shit, I just spoke for like a minute, right? No, I think there's enough evidence in the real world through history to point you in the right direction of God. Obviously, you can't know for certain the whole picture. There's some things that aren't meant for us to know. There's forbidden knowledge, some things we can't know that are beyond our comprehension. But if you just look at the history and the impact, the legacy of Jesus Christ, I think that is compelling enough. There is enough to point you in the right direction, to reveal enough of the truth to get us through this life. And that's really what matters. I mean, how could we understand the infinite when we're finite? And so you look at Jesus Christ, you look at the effect he had on the world. He was not a king. He was not rich in the traditional sense. Oh, not a king in the traditional sense either. He owned little more than the shirt on his back. And yet, like wildfire, this religion spread, and people were willing to go to their gruesome deaths before they disavowed their witness of the resurrection. 500 people witnessed the resurrection, and they all went, the vast majority of them, pretty much all of them, went to their deaths before, refusing to disavow what they saw. When have we ever seen anything like that? When have there ever been people with that level of conviction unanimously across the board? And there was more written testimony of the existence of Jesus than there was of the Roman Emperor, Titus, who was alive at the time. So you can get very precise with the case that you make for Christianity. It's not like all of these different religions have like the same amount of credibility to them. In my humble opinion, Christianity is by far the most compelling. And I can go on and on about that, but you have to do some research. You have to actually search. You have to reach out and try to grasp it. But I think most people are kind of intellectually lazy about it. And you can't be, because like you're gonna die someday. And not everybody can be right. Not every, it's not like everybody is just right about the state of the universe, but are just looking at it through a different prism. I think, these religions are very much conflicting. They cannot both exist at the same time. So certainly one of them has to be right. There has to be some kind of objective truth. And I think the consequences, if any of these religions are right, even then, if we concede that, the consequences are dire. If you're wrong, you could go to hell forever, or at the very least, you won't go to heaven. And that's a terrifying prospect. So I think people have to yearn for the truth, and it can be a discomforting thing, certainly. It's a difficult process growing sometimes.
Conversations about right and wrong and this God or their God or this perception of that. And how are we really saying this is right?
Well, like I said, it's up to every person to evaluate based on their conscience and based on, look, the Bible is a record of prophecy, of revelations, and it has also been expounded upon by philosophers and theologians, just like Islam, just like Judaism, all these traditions, and people, they have a moral responsibility to evaluate those things, because you're right. Everyone is imperfect. Everybody is flawed because of our human nature. We say that's human nature. We mean we have envy, we have desire, we have appetites. We're weak. We're mortal. We die. But we have it matters what we're pointed towards. And the question is the trajectory. What is the ideal we're striving for? And we'll always fall short of. For Christians, we're striving to get up on the cross, which means to die for the sake of another. Selflessness, which is love, which is rooted in a self-giving love, the love that God has for us, the love that we have to show to everyone else. I think that is the best idea. I think that's the best moral idea. Whereas Islam,
most compelling.
In Islam, even to get off I don't want it to be a bash fest against Judaism. That's the subject of, the war in Gaza and everything. But
right.
Even something like Islam, they don't say Allah is their father. They don't say Allah is love. They say Islam means submission, which is different, right? Because Christianity says God the Father, God is love. They don't say that.
But isn't submission to God, to their God, whatever, isn't that also a form of love?
They don't say it that way. They say that Allah does not need creation, that we are nothing compared to him, and that they say that we are Allah's slaves, is what the Muslims say.
But I when I hear submission, being able to submit, for example, in a relationship over something, obviously there's like big ideas, small ideas. Being able to submit into something is a form of love, in my opinion.
Well, and Christians, we submit to God also, but it is in a loving sense, in the sense that, our God, for example, in the Christian theology, became incarnate in man.
It's like, submitting to your father, right? The authority of your father, as opposed to submitting to the authority of your slave master.
He became a man, and he walked with us, and he talked with us, and he knew us, and died for us because he loved us. Whereas Muslims, they actually believe we're idolaters. They think there's one God. The idea that Jesus would also be God, or that God would be a man, they say is a form of idolatry, because we're idolizing a man or a different God, a separate God away from God the Father, what Christians would call God the Father. Their version of God, compared to ours, is distant, impersonal. Our God came to earth to love us intimately, a self-giving love. Their God is distant, is removed from them. It's not intimate. He didn't come to die for them. He doesn't need them. He doesn't want to draw the people, the Muslims, up to him. It's the Muslims' job to submit to their God. So it's a subtle, maybe it seems like a subtle difference, but in principle, it's a very big difference. And I think the fruits are seen in how these different societies have progressed over the years. There's this idea of the fruit of the poisonous tree.
Yeah.
The Christian civilization has given the world the laws of war, as one example that we talked about. It's given the world technology and medicine, and given the world, I think, a lot of good things.
My gosh, this is 3 hours long, man. This is a long interview. It's good stuff, but I don't know if I'm going to get through all of this today.
Whereas you look at some of these other traditions, I don't think it's given the world as much in terms of.
What about like the Chinese medicine, like that?
Yeah, let me just
Out of that whole side of the world, there's a ton of stuff that's given the world, I believe.
But you also have tens of millions of people killed by collectivism. You also have in Islam Sharia law. I don't think anyone would look at Sharia law as something that is like truly stirs our soul and is compelling to us.
Yeah, I guess there's like, is Sharia law in Dubai?
Yeah, they have it in the Emirates.
I know there's no crime out there.
Mhm.
I went there, it was like, you could leave I think I left my phone somewhere, my watch somewhere, it sat there, no one touched it.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's like, this is the only way, but there are things that I remember when I was there, I was like, this is nice.
Mhm.
Everyone was super nice to me. I don't know, maybe it's because of the internet, but there's no crime.
Mhm.
I know that.
That's true.
Like there was
but that's because they're
crime.
brutal. That's because they're brutality.
So maybe there's something there.
They stone people. They lash people. I agree with you, by the way.
I'm just saying there was something there that I was like, damn, this is nice.
Mhm.
So I guess I'm just having this conversation because I'm just like, I'm so interested in religion. I'm so interested in the way that people connect themselves to God and into their purpose and what they need to do in their life. And it's just also interesting to me because I just go back to it all, and it's, it's written, or, there's prophets, but it's all of human translation. It's all of like, hey, to me, it feels like a giant game of like telephone of thousands of years where they're like, this is now how you have to be. And in a world that is so completely different than when it was written then, with technology and all this stuff. And it's like, how do you really get it right? Do you think at some point, like,
Green
you
Hub
think
World,
it
what's
will
up?
ever just be peace? I don't think that exists. I don't think it will ever just be peace.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think a big part of my worldview is that we live on the other side of heaven. So any idea that things are going to be perfect here, and even in some sense, the way that like the language of left-wing people, they always talk in terms of this is unacceptable. This should not be this way. And it's like, okay, but we live in the world, and as long as we live in the world, there's going to be suffering. There's going to be greed. There's going to be all these things. They look at, for example, our leaders or our system, and they say, if it weren't for those greedy corporations, it's like, you're greedy, they're greedy, we're all greedy, we're all fallen, we're all sinful. And so the best that we can do, and to your point earlier, you said everybody is really doing the most with what they can. They're doing the best from their perspective in the moment. And what's incumbent on us is just to try to get to know God, is to try to know. I think we all have a moral obligation to know the truth and to know the moral truth and to fight for it. I think that's everybody's obligation. And
Yeah.
I resent the kind of relativism that says it's all complicated, so to each their own. There's a certain form of...
I think that's so intellectually lazy to just say, but there's a strong case to be made. You have to dig and try to find the truth. I think just it's either laziness or cowardice or the lack of intellectualism to just throw your hands up and say, well, I guess we'll never know the truth, or I guess, they have good points. Everyone has good points. It's a difference of opinion. I just don't think that's the case. And certainly when you look at what these religions, the belief system behind these religions, it's like, look, the consequences for being wrong are dire. Yo, what's up? You ready?
Yeah.
All right. I was just reacting to this. It's 3 hours long, so I think I'm just gonna do an hour today and then just hop into some gaming, because 3 hours is a lot. 3 hours is a long time. So I'll come back to this.
Hey man,
Another time.
that battlefield looks
I got-
promising. It looks promising.
I guess I could watch that real quick.
Does look promising, man.
I guess I should watch some of the
Yeah, I'm
edited
just hanging out
footage.
on the back of the zone.
Yeah, it looks really good, man.
Don't worry about it. It's just me and my friend. We're just hanging out.
Next weekend, did you get your drop?
God, I think my friend's
think
dead.
so.
I think I'm
Oh,
gonna
check
die
your
soon
Twitch
as well.
drops.
What the hell? What is happening? Yes.
Yeah, make sure you've got the drop,
Surely I'm dead.
Are
I
they
do.
gonna, is it only, was it only for today, or are they
No
gonna
way.
do
Yeah, it's only for
tomorrow
today.
as well?
No way.
That's crazy.
Yes. Oh. That tank coming
Yeah.
up here.
Kind of unfortunate because I
In the
just got
back.
home
Wait, that
because I
mine's
had
gonna
to
go
go
off.
somewhere.
Come
I
on,
don't
hit
think
it,
I
hit
had
it.
time to watch an hour of it.
Yes.
Are they not
Oh,
still
that is
going?
so sick, that mine. Welcome to Battlefield 6, guys.
What? You said it's still going?
Oh, I guess not.
Literally the first thing
I guess
did
they're
of
not
the game.
going. Damn, bro.
I've joined the server, and we've hit that.
Wait, so is it only
can't make it
from
up.
Battlefield?
big
Only
Thanks
from their
to
stream, or
EA
is
No,
it
for
like
from-
on
sponsoring the
Twitch.
video
Anybody
today
on that was
and
that was at
giving
the
me early access
event.
to play and record. Really appreciate that. Look at this tank here. Oh, it's Stone Mountain. Let's go.
Yeah.
What's up, bro?
I mean, you
thought
said the
I'd
open
show
beta
you
is
some
only
of
like
the
2 days
movement
after,
mechanics
so
in the
I mean,
game
it's
to
not-
begin. So we've got sprint.
Well, I got a
There is no
code.
tactical sprint.
If
That's gone.
I
So you
might
guys
already
can go
have
look in the
access
air.
because I was in Battlefield
We can
Labs.
also
In which
crouch
case, I
and
could just give you
crouch
my
sprint.
code.
Remember the Goblin Run from BF5? That's in the game now, so you
Uh,
can
Yeah,
get
I
your head
get, yeah,
down.
you could do that.
You can do
Yeah,
that.
but I have to see.
You can
I
slide.
have to see if I have
Yeah, you have
access
to
or
see
not.
it.
Slide into cover, for
Yeah.
example, and you can also dive.
Yeah, it's kind of
onto your front.
shitty that
You
you
can
know
dive-
that like they hosted this event when people are at fucking work. It's like, you know, I guess like open up your phone or something. I don't know, but that's kind of shitty. Alrighty.
Fucking Tarek was in it. Tim was in it.
Yeah,
There's so many people there that
It was all the who's
wasn't expecting
who's
to be
of,
there.
yeah. All right, let me change my category and my title and everything. Just completely switching gears here to Counter-Strike. Totally different tone for the stream. Here I am talking about politics and religion and shit. And now I'm gonna play some head ass fucking Counter-Strike, being a retard. Ugh.
I mean, shit. How it be, man. That's how it be.
I'll just change my title.
Although I'm kind of sad they don't have any DM servers.
For what?
I guess from the update.
Oh, this
For
is still
CS.
still busted?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. Boom, boom. I do that. Change my settings here. Let me disable that preview. Where is it? Gaming. Counter. Right to. Save. Okay. All right. Cool. Are you in game already?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, new driver update, I think. I'll install that later. Why does this always auto open? I don't want that. Okay. All right, I'll just launch. Actually, I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
All right.
I'll let this play while I'm gone.
Dive onto your back like this. You can crawl around. You can shoot while you're crawling. Reload. And also, if you aim, you can do that, but you slow down. Your movement slows down. See how the animation has changed. And apart from that, I thought I would test like diving and shooting. Doesn't really seem like you can shoot until you hit the floor, which is good. And we've got the contextual lean. So if you're near a surface, you see that little arrow that comes up. There's no manual lean in the game, but you can do right, up, and then, of course, over here. We could do left, like so. Do a little peek out. So that's the basic movement. Yeah, these are the capture points in the game now. You see, it's kind of like a painterly effect on the ground, as if it's been spray painted. You can turn those outlines off if you want. Go on, flare it. Missed. I think he actually did flare it. Come on, get the lock. That's got to be a hit. Yes. He's going down. Oh my god. Yeah, so the helicopter's actually crashed onto the level now. There's a vehicle there. The jet is burning. But where's he going? Too far away for a lock. Oh, the jets sound incredible, don't they? That sounds so real the way it streams by. Is that anti-air? Does that just spawn it? Oh my god. Bye-bye building. I'm coming after you, mate. Yes, let's go. Yeah, so there's a lot more destruction in this game than we had in 2042 for sure. Oh, this thing is cool. It sounds amazing. What's up, tank? Try and take out that. Helicopter?
Alright.
Yes, we got it. Nice. I think this just randomly spawned on the point. Maybe they've got spawning vehicles back when you capture the objectives. Caught. Bye-bye.
Alright.
Direct hit. Oh, dearie me.
Alright, ready?
Yeah.
Ah.
Wait, did I ever tell you I sold all of my cases? I used to have like 20, no, probably like 40 Dreams and Nightmare cases.
You had 40 of them?
Yeah,
Did you buy them or were they just drops?
they were just drops.
Damn, so if you had 40, you probably made like, what, 80 bucks?
Yeah, something like that.
Nice. Let's roll. I'm just gonna hold on to them because I think they're gonna go up in price.
Man, that shitty ass map, man. Fucking
know.
Inferno.
Alright, ancient it is. Yeah, pull up my. Let's roll. Yo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brush B.
Yo. I'm running cave.
The flash. Flash over. I'll smoke left side.
Flashing.
Nice. CT.
On CT.
Long good.
Long.
Oh my gosh, I got spammed, bro. It's too long.
Too long, yeah.
Last one long.
Yes.
Like that little entry?
Yeah, it was good.
A little tap in the head. Pop.
Let's go A. Go A.
Smoking red.
Flashing up.
Oh shit.
One red. Oh no, I'm dead.
CT one.
Take my AK, guys. Take my AK. They have an AK and donut now. Can I have it, please, yellow? No, don't give it to him. He doesn't deserve it. Yeah, real. Yes, I do.
Oh, this-
No,
this
I-
fucking-
Give it to me. Me. You want me to have it. You want
This
me to
AK
have
is
it. Just drop
ugly.
it.
Ugh.
Just drop it.
It's the skull bust one.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Run cave, blue, run cave, run cave.
Ah, my arm
I'll
itches.
flash for you. Just run cave. Look away.
One insight.
Mid. I'm smoking CT, B. One on mid.
Okay.
Yo, blue, he's peeking cave, buddy.
Cut. I push long.
Mother. Oh, this guy's gonna piss me off, man. This guy is the one with the Mac 10. He needs to be holding fucking cave.
What are you holding?
I'm holding mid. Fucking 2 mid. I'm holding mid. I have an AK. I like. Where's my old mid?
Can we find mid? Do you guys know red smoke? Anyone?
I can't throw it from here.
I'm just push mid, please. It's late smoke, late smoke.
Smoke molly, smoke molly.
Nice, we have mid, guys. Split A, split A.
Where the fuck is the AK? Cut.
Donut.
Cut, cut.
No bomb. One CT.
This one's mid.
4 bullet.
God, they have fucking arm itches. All of a sudden.
His elbow, probably. Yeah, molly flash.
Nice.
Oh, man.
Fucking arm itches so much. Get like bit by a bug or something? I think I did. This when I was outside.
Try to get a pick on B ramp. We don't have to commit.
Drop me an
just,
AK.
play default, guys.
Let's go. Deploying smoke shield.
What are you smoking, Ellie?
I smoked Cheetah.
Okay. One dead B.
Fire in the hole.
I think one's bottom mid. One in
Nice,
cave.
scout in
one
there.
A. Okay. Nice run. Just do the same round.
Fucking bug bite, man.
Whoever's playing highway, just be careful of cave. This guy plays in cave around. Likes to push.
Throwing smoke. Flashbang.
Yeah, smoke.
Go ahead, guys. Go ahead. Wait, one in donut. Left side donut.
You've only done it. Donut dead.
One's brokey. He's
One's
A-main now,
brokey.
has medic. A-main has medic.
Okay. Just
One might be highway with my AK. You definitely push through.
going through red.
Nice, Scubby.
Scooby.
Smoking. Throwing back.
Like, ramp.
Yeah, you can play.
Blue, can you just hold CT? Yellow's playing along. Peek off your contact. Yep, this is perfect. Just hold this.
No, I'm fucking lagging. What the hell?
Good run, guys.
I think we both die.
So close.
Oh shit.
Fuck, man. Fuck.
Look,
Fucking hell, man. Oh,
his body went
did a
flying.
fucking cartwheel.
You know, I actually got lucky because this is the only map that I could find a somewhat build DM on. That was in America.
Smoking.
Cave.
What's the second smoke on A?
Yeah. Dude, what is going on with my network?
I see your shadow.
Air boost.
Yeah.
It's on default.
Got caught with my pants down and shit.
One red.
I've thrown out.
Fuck.
Wow. We must have saw him there. Like prior.
Fucking mosquito got me, man. Ugh.
Where?
My arm.
Let's, I don't know. Let's just shoot them.
Sucks.
That's a great
We
idea.
try to take mid.
drop me an
Use,
AK.
Smoke cheetah again. And
Yeah.
then 2 guys go elbow, 3 guys go, highway.
Alright, I'm drop my
No, don't push
flash.
cave. Just fight.
No bloody dilly-dallying about.
We need more people. Just wait for us elbow, don't go out.
Red.
Red room's not smoked.
Yeah, nobody smoked it. I smoked cheetah.
I don't know, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Let's try again. I'll smoke red this round. Spy pistols.
Stop giving me that fucking bomb.
Just wait to swing elbow. Let them throw their util, and then once we come up elevator, or not elevator, I mean highway, can swing together. Can you smoke cheetah again, yellow?
Yeah.
Wait, do you know the red room smoke?
Yeah. Do you?
No, I was just wondering.
You gotta learn that shit.
I mean, I was pushing mid. I wasn't gonna fucking throw you till.
You throw it
Get
instant.
a run
You throw it
heavy,
instant.
Just sit, elbow guys. Wait for us to swing.
It's instant smoke.
If it's smoke, just swing through the smoke.
Throwing smoke.
Wait.
We're ready.
What?
We're mollied. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Try to take down out.
One towards
this.
temple.
CT.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, it was a good try. It was a good effort, but it's not gonna work.
Man.
Gotta save again.
Just default, guys.
Smoking.
Push mid. Care, jump up. He likes to push through cave as well. Just be careful.
Me and yellow are just working out 8 right now.
By temple.
Never mind. He knows I'm here too.
You got the pick. You got the pick. No, you can take the space, man.
Upping red.
Him done that.
All red still.
Bro.
Up
Yes,
CT,
one.
up CT.
Donut.
What's going on over there on A, man?
Guy just fucking hard baited.
Was he like?
Smoking red. Just like if I'm walking out, just fucking walk out with me.
He was still main, I'm assuming.
Yeah, just fucking doing nothing.
That's crazy.
Throwing smoke. Flashbang. Throwing flashbang.
One donut.
Molotov out.
One's at 95. B ramp.
Well, I'm gonna smoke B ramp. Oh, it's smoke. come back. Let's go ahead.
Let's be go.
Let's go B.
Nice.
Lurk.
On my way to plant.
So we demolished them.
Easy.
Somebody buy orange.
Easy.
Can I get a drop? Thank you.
I'm getting a kill on B fast. Can we flash over?
Let's move.
Let's just go B.
Flashbang.
Left B, left B.
And pillar.
In cave, in cave, in cave.
Okay.
Molotov. I'm gonna stick this one now. Grenade out.
2 CT.
Flashing CT.
Both CT.
In front of you.
Nice.
All right.
Bro, dude, we fucking U-tilt the shit out of fucking cave. This guy comes full sprinting out of cave on fire.
What the fuck was his
Bro, it's
plan, man?
fucking burning, man.
I'll play
It's
mid.
fucking- I'll play mid too.
Dude, I must.
Blue, your mic is not working. I'll go B.
That's
Let's go
crazy.
3B this round.
What?
Your mic's not working.
I'm going A.
I didn't even do nothing, man.
Just check what your I smoke mid.
It's probably B, probably B.
More mid.
There's another one. Two.
I'm in.
No, fuck, they can't hear me.
I think they're going donut. So
Yep. It's split A.
fuck, man.
One more should be low. No, they're all on A already.
I'm like, got fucking eaten up by mosquitoes today, dude. Luckily, I've got some
Nice.
hydrocortisone right here for fast itch relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stick it, man. Just stick it. Just stick it.
Ah. Fucking hate mosquitoes, man.
Wait, did you hear me talking here? When I used my mic?
I don't know.
I don't know if
I don't know. I wasn't listening. Ask your team if they hear you.
Yo. Can y'all hear me?
I guess
Oh,
not.
it's cooked, man.
Your mic is still not working.
Alright.
You can test it in the CS:GO
pushing.
setting or CS settings.
No.
Oh, what happened to my gun? The fuck?
A again.
Nice.
They're all A, they have an M4. Full eco though, no armor.
I have one flash.
Point a main.
Flashing over side.
I mean dead.
M4 dead, A main. Last on side, there's an M4 A main.
No smoke, I think.
In the smoke.
Killed him. He's dead, guys. You can stop shooting. He's dead.
Where is he? He's in the smoke.
I got him, guys.
Where?
He's dead. He was in the smoke.
Where?
Where was he?
I killed him. He's in the smoke.
Which smoke? There's a lot of smoke on the side.
Ah, he's dead now.
He was in a smoke.
Which one?
Yeah. Well, there's no smokes anymore. They faded.
Can I have an M4 yellow?
I'll have to check the VOD.
Please.
I'm smoking elbow.
Okay, cool.
Alright, we just keep taking mid control. Just keep taking mid control.
Yeah. Dude, why am I getting 100 MS jitter, man?
Oh yeah, you are lagging bad.
Could be cat.
Smoke.
I can boost you. You don't have to come up.
Get ready to re-smoke that. Re-smoke elbow. Gonna
One
fade
smoke
soon.
B, flashing my highway.
2 highway with bomb.
One more highway. Or a B ramp, I mean.
Oh, I could trade.
One T-spawn.
I think one was elbow.
Last one was ramp. What fucking molly is that?
I don't know, man. It's making fireworks. Let's see. Surely my mic worked then. Surely it did.
I don't know. Does it say it's working in the CS in CS? Like if you
It
go to
did.
settings and you go to your like
Yeah,
audio.
Yeah, it did.
Dude, what the fuck,
Force,
man?
guys, force.
Yellow, where'd you play before?
We're just walking through.
No, but before.
One elbow.
Mid?
Elbow. I'll mid. I'll mid.
Walking out mid. Yep.
94 in
Just
cave,
fucking
peeking now.
lights on me.
Bottom mid. One more. Up cat. Up cat. Let's let. Oh, 81 for this guy. Couldn't hit him once.
Fucking trolling, man. Throwing.
I just save.
Yeah, you're right.
Just mid. Nade mid.
Can I have a Peter 50 blue, please?
Laying down smoke.
Fuck, who's blocking me?
Grenade out.
Flash it in.
Cat.
Nice.
One elbow.
They're hitting A. Base clear.
Yeah, amen.
Pushing a main, yeah.
Dude, no way. Come on, big bucks.
Just wait for me. I'm fighting them. It's fine, too. You can just fucking fight them 1v3, I guess.
I'm out, man. Fuck this.
Let's go. Let's go. Smoke.
Are you going B? I mean A, blue?
Yeah.
Throwing fire. Fire in the hole. Grenade out. Grenade out.
Flash mid.
Elbow now.
Up cat. Oh, now he peeks. Dude, this fucking lag is unreal. Ah.
I'm just gonna save, dude. That's wild. That was a wild ass peek, dude. That's crazy. that was something, man. It's the first time I ever fucking got peeked like that before.
Ugh.
And fucking wide swung, just a little crouch. Fucking tapped me in the head. Oh.
These fellas are gonna regret waking up this morning.
Man's man.
Smoke B.
One mid. One elbow. He's chasing you. I found the fuck. Son of a bitch. Yuck. Gross. Ugh.
Damn, you hate mosquitoes that much?
I hate mosquitoes. I killed it.
Guys, can we take mid, take 2 mid, and then 3 B, please? You can just retake A.
We can do this.
Oh shit.
Throwing fire.
Very close, guys.
They're out, they're out.
I got to move, man.
More elbow.
Out mid. Last one's mid.
You're
Last
just
one's
fucking
mid.
sitting there,
Nice.
body blocking the shit out of me, man.
Yeah, gross. Bet that mosquito on my fucking leg.
Hit that man with the rust thing on, man. I fucking just tossed that nade.
Well, I guess I'll end the stream because this shit's kind of cooked. My internet's fucked.